Friends, welcome to the Acts 29 Northeast Lead Pastors podcast. I'm here with my friend Jeff Betcher from Philadelphia.
What's up,
brother?
How you doing, man?
Good, man. Good. Thanks for joining us here.
Happy to do it, man.
Yeah, brother, well, I'm going to capture your story. So maybe before we get into what you're doing currently, how did you become a Christian?
Yeah, so I had the privilege of growing up in a Christian home. And so my dad was a Christian school teacher. And then I was 7, he actually got called into ministry. And then when I was 8, he planted a church.
Nice.
And so I'm a church planter.
Is this in Philadelphia?
No, we were in Media, which is a suburb of Philly, and
Okay.
that's where he was originally planting a church in that area, starting a church in that area. And then he went and planted a church in Cherry Hill, New Jersey.
Yeah.
So over on the other side of the bridge. So great guy, still one of my best friends. And so cool. Him and my mom just poured the gospel into me from a young age. And I think from a young age, I had by the grace of God, like an understanding and love for the Lord, and a desire to read and to study. So I was reading, systematic theology books at a fairly young age. But with that, they do say knowledge puffs up.
Yeah.
And so, I had a lot of theological knowledge from a fairly young age, but a heart that honestly was pretty cold towards God, even though I didn't realize it. And it's because my head was so puffed up. And so, was kind of in church doing, leading Bible studies, doing all kinds of stuff all through high school. But then my junior year of high school, the Lord kind of really exposed me through just my arrogance and how I got involved in some sin, really started living a double life in many ways, justifying it in all kinds of craziness that we do, right, in our sin.
Oh, yeah.
And that kind of all got exposed, and I got exposed to really be a hypocrite in many ways. And so God just, in His kindness, popped the bubble of my arrogance, exposed me for the sinner that I was, and then in that place, met me by His grace. Although it took some time, because I really came to this point of when my sin was exposed, I was really grappling with how could I know all this theology and it not really make a difference in my life? And so I was really just grappling with James 2, am I demonic? Is this I and then my theology started working against me. It's maybe I'm just not one of the elect, right? And so it just isn't for me. It's not like I need to learn.
You're wrestling with this stuff in junior high?
No, this is as a junior in high school.
I was going to say, man, that's some deep stuff to be wrestling through when you're 12, 13 years old.
No, so about 17.
Okay.
About 17. Right. So I was wrestling through at 17, man. Am I not part of the elect?
Do you think you were born again at that point?
I do. So I do think that there was a love of God that the Lord had birthed in me, probably around age 8 or 9.
Okay.
Because I got baptized when I was 10, and so I did have the question through all this, on the other side of this crisis that I was in when I was 17, do I need to get rebaptized? And how do I process it? I don't think so. I think the way I kind of think of it was, the Lord did a work of grace, but really there was a lot of bad fruit that I've been sowing, and so God just had to do a deep work to uproot that. So I say 17 really was a spiritual defining moment, because when I'm grappling through, so I'm not part of the elect and all that stuff, God just really met me. I was at this conference, was sitting up in the back, was not engaged in any kind of worship, because I respected God enough to know that I don't want to be falsely worshiping Him and have lightning strike me, So and I really just felt like the Lord really clearly speak to me. That Jeff, the only thing I see when I see your sin is how far I had to come to save you.
Wow.
And He just brought Romans 5:8 to mind. God demonstrates His love for us, right? While I was just sinners, Christ died for us. And I think what kind of happened in that moment, and what Lord sort of really then just walked me through over the next couple of weeks, was just understanding of the gospel in a bigger way, which I already had known. But it's one thing to know about something, and it's another thing to actually know it.
Yeah. And
so I think I had always had a high view of God. But then I'd also had a high view of myself for a while. Then through the sin I engaged in, God took me down to the ground, man. And so I had no high view of myself. And my gospel was exposed to be very, very small, right? And so that's why I was in this, man, am I not saved or whatever, is because my gospel was so small. But then the Lord just showed me how great and glory it was in Christ. And so I don't think that's when I became a Christian, but I can't just say, hey, I believe in Jesus when I was 8 and it's been great since then. I think 17 was really, I would say, the defining point of my...
It was a turning point.
Yeah.
It's interesting how in many, many of our experiences, we're genuinely born again, we're regenerate, and yet there's so much ignorance, we don't know anything, but Jesus died for my sins, and we repent and believe in some way. And then, man, it's a lifelong process of Him opening our eyes to greater truths, deeper depths.
Yeah, absolutely.
What conference was that? Do you remember?
So yeah, it was absolutely. It was what we call the Celebration Conference. So I
Okay.
used to be part of a denomination called Sovereign Grace.
Yeah, I know about Sovereign Grace.
Yeah. And so
I used to go to the New Attitude conference, which changed to Next. I think.
Yeah. I was there too. I wonder if we probably
Orlando?
crossed paths. Yeah, man.
Yeah, Orlando. I think that was
yeah.
11.
Yeah,
That
I was there.
Yeah, I was
That's
there too.
funny. Small world.
Yeah, me and Steve Brindle and some other friends.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they would do this basically. New Attitude was out, as you know, was for young adults. They would do this celebration conference, what they called it. It was all churches getting together.
Okay.
And it was great, man. It was great. It was a great time.
Nice.
So, yeah.
So God really worked in that conference
Yeah.
to reveal to you, yeah, you're a sinner, but I am a great Savior.
Yeah.
What do you think? What flowed out of that, like experientially? Now, this deeper understanding of the gospel.
I think there was a couple things. One, there was a love for God that I really don't think I had before. You know, I mean, as Jesus said, he who's forgiven much loves much.
Yeah.
And so before, when I was like, hey, I'm a good kid, like, what does God forgive me for?
Yeah.
But really, when the Lord in his kindness showed me the depths of my depravity, that's really what led me to taste and see that the Lord is good. And so I think there was just a love for Christ that was birthed in my heart that in ways not previously experienced. That was one. And the second one was honestly a zeal to share the gospel. Because I think it was like, man, if God can reach a know-it-all church kid like me, then there is no one that he can't reach. Because I think, you know, a lot of times, growing up in, you know, high school and stuff in Christian context, you hear the sensational testimonies.
Yes.
And that's great, and we praise God for that. But on the other hand, you know, my thought was like, well, man, these people didn't know about Jesus. And so, of course, they're like doing drugs and doing all this crazy stuff, right? And of course, like, they hear about Christ and like, yeah, Jesus is better than living on the streets, right?
Right.
And so, like, it seems to me, it's like that's great, but like, I think the hardest people to reach, honestly, are the people in the pews. It's the kids in the pews who grow up and they hear it all and they know it all. So it's not like they need new information. It really needs to be a work of God.
Yeah.
Only He can do it.
That's
Only
right.
He can take that knowledge and make it come alive to your heart through the Spirit. And so it just gave me a zeal. It's like, man, if God can save someone like me, then I got to tell everyone about Him. And
How did that start working out practically?
so yeah, man, I was going to malls and sharing the gospel.
Yes. Do you use tracks or you just
Yeah,
walk up to people
I
talking?
was using tracks. There was this thing called the How Good Are You track that kind of like our denomination was using and
Yeah.
stuff. I got real into like Ray Comfort, and so like,
Yeah,
I was out
Living
in
Waters,
I was out in the boardwalk, you know, Ocean City,
Yeah,
Ocean City, New Jersey, preaching the gospel on the thing. Which,
like street preaching?
like street preaching,
Nice,
yeah,
bro.
street preaching. There was a brawl one time when I was street preaching, which was like some guy was like heckling me, which is always good when you're a street preacher because the guy draws the crowd.
attention,
Yeah. And then so like he'd say, "Hey, let the man speak," and like punches him, and then
Oh,
the cops were being
jeez.
called. It was crazy. But that was the last time I spoke on the. There's probably better ways to do this. So yeah, so that's kind of started working out, which was good, and I think I was learning through all that stuff. But then it really morphed into like going to college and just really building deep relationships with people who don't know Christ. And then also like had the privilege of recruiting some of my friends. We all went to the same college. The heart was like, hey, let's be on mission together here for
Christian
Christ.
college?
No, it was Rutgers University.
Yep.
And so yeah, we went to Rutgers and we started a Bible study. And then ended up linking up with Crew
Yeah.
to get like officially recognized. There was never staff involved because we were too small for that of a school. But so we kind of just let it, and Crew was generous to like give us free books and
Nice.
stuff like that,
Yeah.
and use our name. And that was really through, the Lord just really moved in that in really, really powerful ways. We grew from a little Bible study, 5 people, to it was over 100 by the time I was done.
Whoa, you're leading it?
Yeah, I had the privilege to
Man,
lead that.
that's
Yeah,
dope.
met my wife through that ministry.
Tell us
and-
about that. You met your wife, you have kids now?
Yeah,
Tell us about that.
Yeah. So I met my wife Angie there. We met my sophomore year of college.
Okay.
Started dating my junior year of college, and then and we were married right after graduation. So I've been married now for 15 years this
Nice.
past July, and we have 3 kids. So Sophie, who's 12, Judah, who's 10, and Aaron, who's 7.
Yeah, you're busy.
Yeah.
Not just with ministry. Man,
Yeah.
kids I have 3 as well. And it's a busy life with kids, man.
Yeah.
That's fun. So you're in college, you're leading this ministry. Did seeing that fruit, like, would you say 5 to 100? Like,
Yeah.
did that say, I wonder if I'm called to do this?
Absolutely. I think that's when God kind of birthed in my heart, like, maybe you should do this full time. Because I had a zeal for evangelism, which I knew this is just what my life's going to be about. But what I loved through that ministry was seeing people come to faith, but then also needing to be then discipled. And so I was like, and seeing that, like, hey man, it seems like the Lord's maybe given me the gifts and ability to do this, and so how do I actually steward that? And so, yes, that's where a sense of like pastoral ministry kind of started getting birthed.
How did you explore that call?
So my dad's pastor, so I talked to him about it. Said, hey, what do you think?
Is your dad still pastoring, by the way?
He still pastors,
Love it.
Still pastors with him. Going on, he just celebrated, I think, 32 years,
Man, that's
something like that,
awesome.
crazy like that.
Is he in Philly?
No, he's still in New Jersey.
Okay.
Still at the same church they planted.
Love it.
Almost 30 years ago.
That's great.
So yes, met with him, and he did a couple things that were really, I think, really wise. One, he's like, hey, I've been pouring into your life forever, and will continue to do that as your dad. But I think you should link up, if like you really want to explore this, link up with someone who's not me, who can probably be a more objective voice in your life.
Yeah.
And I want to continue to relate to you kind of father to son, and not like pastor to like potential future pastor. And I think it was really wise. So we talk about like pastoral stuff all the time. It's part of a relationship. But he had another guy that he really kind of put on point of like discipling me. And that guy was hugely influential. He's another pastor on staff at my dad's church.
Nice.
And the second thing he said is, Jeff, this is great. You're growing to, you just graduated. You're just getting married. Praise God. He's like, I would hold off on seminary because if you just go straight from college degree to seminary to pastorate, you've never actually lived in the real world. And so I think you basically need to grow up a little bit.
Yeah, that's good.
And he's my dad, and he knew me, so he knew I needed to grow up a little bit. So like, just go get a job. And it was like, if you still want to be a pastor 5 years from now, then we'll talk.
Was that hard to hear?
Was that hard to hear? Yes, and not really.
Okay.
I mean, there was a burning desire to get in ministry, so that it was hard. Like, I don't like to be delayed, so I think I was pushing for that.
Yeah.
But I think there was also like, if this is part of the process of training, then I'm good for it.
Okay.
So, because I think my dad did a good job, and the mentor who was mentoring me, a good job of like, this is not a delay, this is preparation.
That's good.
And they were like, we could start using you now.
What were you in your early 20s?
I was in my early 20s. I was 22.
Yeah.
But like, we could start using you now, man. But like, we don't want to set you up for 5 years of ministry. But like, what does it look like to run hard for Jesus for 50?
Yeah.
So I think they did a really good job of like, we're not just saying wait. We're saying like, get ready.
Yeah.
And so I think that was really helpful.
This is part of the process.
Yeah.
Instead of just hit pause for 5 years.
Yeah.
This is part of your training in a sense. That's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
And you're in seminary now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you've been pastoring for how long?
So I got ordained in 2014. So I've been pastoring for
9 years.
9 years, yeah.
So
That's not true. I just totally messed that up. I left to plant the church in 2014. I got ordained in 2012.
Oh, wow.
So yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So you've been pastoring for 9 years though.
Yeah.
And you got ordained.
No. So I'm pastoring since 11 years, right? 2012.
Yeah.
We're both
math's terrible.
This is why we're pastors.
Exactly.
We don't do
not
math.
Mathematicians.
We're not mathematicians. Yeah.
So, do you think? And I want to go back to the story, but just a quick question. Do you think that now, having pastored and led a church for many years, seminary is more valuable now than if you just started before ministry?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I think it was for a couple reasons. One, even what my dad did, even when I that 5 years was over, he said, come and intern for me for like a year, then we'll send you to seminary. So so even in my first theological education, it was come get some pastoral experience first before you go, because you don't even know what questions to ask. So I thought that was really wise then, and I think so even more so now.
So you this is your second seminary round.
Yeah.
Where did you go first?
So our Sovereign Grace had an internal kind of school called the Pastor's College.
Yeah.
It was a 1 year immersive.
What was it, Jeff Purswell?
Jeff Purswell. Yeah, Jeff Purswell. Yeah. Great guy. Still someone I really, really appreciate.
Nice.
And so it was like a 1 year immersive thing. So, but I think having like the 1 year internship before I went and did that was crucial. And then now, like, I've been pastoring since 2012. And so coming back, I wanted to come back because, it long been on my heart to maybe explore a doctorate or whatever. So I'm part of the kind of the TH program here at Grimke, and it's potentially a precursor to doing doctoral work. And I feel like it's just been so helpful because, again, even more so now do I know the better questions to ask.
Right.
You know, it's helpful to know what you don't know. And so it's like, okay, you know, what are things that I want to press into? So I feel like I'm picking my classes better and then interacting with some of the, you know, profs here, which is so grateful for these guys, and really being able to press into them. And what I'm really grateful about them, and the same thing was true for the Pastors College, is they're all pastors.
Yeah.
And so I've had the privilege of auditing some seminary classes, other seminaries. You know, people are trying to lure you in and say, hey, come, you can come do, you know, get your doctorate degree here, man. Just, you know, so, and I, you know, so many places that I respect. I've been to a couple of them, but it was like, it's just such a different when it's an academic who's like, I mean, they're precise, they're brilliant, versus like a guy, you know, who's like, hey, let me tell you how this works out in my church, you know, and who's still brilliant, still an academic in many ways, but they're not just living in a classroom, right? And
practitioners.
They're practitioners, and so that's what I love about Grimke. And so coming in as a practitioner, I feel like has been wildly helpful. So I still say the same thing with guys I'm kind of helping bringing up. It's like, that's kind of our model, is come like do an internship, hang out with us first, then do seminary. I'm all about seminary, all about thorough education, but you need that, I think you need that preparation part first to kind of like know what you need to know before you're ready.
And I think there's a danger where you come out of college, you're like, oh, I'm gonna get my Master of Divinity, but yet you've never done pastoral ministry, and you have a vision of what it is, which it probably isn't.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And then you get into it and you're like, this isn't what I signed up for.
Yeah.
You know? And then you're not doing it anymore, and you got this degree that's...
And then also like just, I mean, the practical stuff too. And this is obviously all like, this is not prescriptive. This is just kind of how my story worked. But the practical, like, I know what it's like to work for a boss who's not a believer. Yeah. I know what it's like to sit there and you got guys who know how to work hard and party hard. Like, right. Whereas you go from like kind of seminary world to like the church world, like you've never again lived in the world that the people in the pews live in every day. And so I feel like it's helped shape my preaching. It's helped shape my pastoral counsel. Because you're just able to relate a little bit more. Now, again, that's not like, you don't want to overdo that.
Yeah. We're not saying this has to be the case,
but I think it's helpful.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so you're out of college.
Yeah.
You're married.
Yeah.
You're ordained in 2012. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so was working for 5 years and never, you know, shook.
What were you doing, by the way?
I was in sales.
Okay.
So my original goal was, my degree was in English, English and classical studies. And then I was actually about to get enrolled at UPenn and get my PhD in English studies. I was like, well, I love to teach, so I'll be a college professor. But then, I don't know, just through prayer, was like, man, do I really want to go like another 3 years of school, then only teach for 2? If I'm going to be a pastor, it seems like a lot of education for something that like I'm not going to use that long. Yeah. So how can I go make as much money as possible, because I know I won't as a pastor, and what am I good at? I'm like, well, I'm good with people and I'm good at talking, so I'll go into sales. So I did that, man. I worked for Canon Business Solutions, you know, big copier machines and stuff. So God was kind. You know, was really successful in that. My wife and I would call it our Joseph years. Those were our years of plenty. Nice. Before we went into the years of famine. And the Lord blessed us in great ways, and it was cool. But yeah, it's never shook the call to be a pastor. So ended up, my dad, you know, coming back said, hey, would you want to be an intern? An interesting thing. So he asked me that on a Monday. I had a meeting with my boss the next day on Tuesday, and I was planning on telling him like, hey, it's time to go. My boss said to me, hey Jeff, like, just so you know, you know, this guy's retiring in our company, and we want to put your name in to like replace him. And it would have been like, I was already making really good money by the grace of God. This would have been like next level. It's what's called a major account exec. So it's like you move from working, you know, with company. You're working with companies like Coca-Cola. You have like a 5 list, just huge, massive companies. Yeah. And he's like, yeah, you'll be flying to, you know, we have to fly out to Tokyo to corporate probably once or twice a year. You have to go up to New York regularly. So it was like a big deal. And so I just called my dad. I'm like, man, like, what do you like? This timing is crazy. Like, what do you think? And he's like, hey, like, God's honored by people in the marketplace, and he's honored for people in the ministry. So it's, you know, it's not like one is more godly than the other. And he's like, honestly, like, we need Christians who make a lot of money, so maybe you need to do that, you know? So he was kind of like, why don't you pray about it? And because I asked my boss if I could take like a week. And so I was planning on just like praying about it and like really search, like, oh, I'm gonna tell it to my wife, like, hey, you know, what do you think, sweet? I think we need to take this week just to kind of pray and fast and pray about it. And my sweet wife, who is very sweet and very gentle, but she's had a couple moments where she's gotten a little rough on me. This is one of those moments, not rough, just very blunt. And she said, Jeff, we've been talking about pastoral ministry since we were dating. And this is clearly God's call in your life. And we shouldn't pray about something God's called us already to do. We just need to be obedient. So we don't need, she's like, she's like, we should not pray. We should be obedient, is what she said. And it was just like, all right. Yeah, all right.
So she was, in a sense, the voice of God.
She was the voice, yeah, she was. And honestly, in some ways, it cost her. Like, I grew up a pastor's kid. I know what it's like to, like, you know, not make any money and kind of do that whole thing. And for her, it's like, she was saying no to, like, I mean, we were going on cruises. We were getting sent out, like, to, like, you know, these big 5-star resorts for, like, you know, it's just you're living the high life of the high performing salesperson, right? And she was kind of saying, like, no, like, I don't need any of that. Like, we just need to be obedient to Christ. And so,
love that.
Yeah, my wife is far godlier than I am. But yeah, so it was good, man. So that's kind of how I got in. So then, yeah, did the 1-year internship, pastor's college, got ordained, and then through that process, we start praying about church planting as well.
What made you want to plant? That's a unique type of ministry.
Yeah.
Planting.
I didn't want to plant, and I was never thinking about planting. I was just planning on being a pastor, you know, at my dad's church. For the rest of my life, I didn't really have more of a plan than just being a pastor.
Yeah.
And I was listening to a church planter share about his desire to church plant. Guy my dad had in to, you know, talk and just share testimony. We were raising money for him. And I had the thought, I was like, man, I would never want to do that. And I just felt God say, like, why? And I started writing down all these reasons. And I was looking at the reason, like, none of these are actually godly reasons. They're all comfort, they're all convenience. There was nothing about, like, how has God gifted and called me and how can I steward that? So I just felt like kind of convicted that, like, I need to pray about that. So again, just started a prayer journey. And through that process of prayer, just started considering, okay, what are the things that, like, that the Lord's blessed as I've been, like, doing ministry and stuff, right? And it's like, okay, well, I took a college ministry, like, started with a couple of my friends, grew into, you know, a thriving ministry on campus. The church, when I was doing an internship with them, says, hey, Jeff, can you, like, launch, like, it was an alpha course, basically, so, like, a new believers type thing. Can you gather leaders, launch it? We've tried to do it a couple times, hasn't worked. And so, yeah, got together a group of, like, 10 people. That grew up to, like, 150. So it seems like I seem to be good at growing stuff. Like, it seems the Lord's, like, blessed me with. So I'm just, like, praying about that. And the Lord kind of led me to Romans 15:20, where Paul says, like, I make it my ambition to go where Christ is yet to be named, lest I build on someone else's foundation. It just, like, really felt like that was, like, a calling verse. I mean, there's obviously, I think pastors were called to build on foundations, right?
Yes.
Timothy, Titus, like, and that's a beautiful ministry and a needed ministry. But then there's also a call, I think, to go where Christ is yet to be named and start something new. And so that's why I kind of just felt like the Lord was leading me, and started praying about church planting. And then the question becomes where?
Yeah.
Right? So if you're going to plant a church, where do you plant a church? And I think that verse of where Christ is yet to be named, just started praying about what that would look like. And so first was thinking, like, man, do we need to go to, like, a third world country and preach, you know.
So you're thinking overseas missions.
Just thinking overseas missions, but then there's a whole other part of my story, but I have a disease called Crohn's disease. I got diagnosed when I was 8, almost died from it numerous times. And so it really would not be able, as much as we believe that faith in God, it's like that probably, it wouldn't be wise at the same time. I don't want to presume upon grace.
Yes.
And so it wouldn't be, Lord is, you know, in his wisdom has not seen fit to heal me. And so since this is a thorn that he seems that he wants me to deal with, and trust that his grace is sufficient for, I need to be in a place to
be wise about
it. Yeah. So, all right, so if we're going to stay here, then where do we go? And that's where we started praying. The Lord really just highlighted Philadelphia, which was only, 30 minutes from where I was already pastoring, already living. But Philadelphia, you know, fifth largest city in the country, 1.6 million people, and less than 7% of them go to a church on Sunday. And that's any kind of church. Catholic, Protestant, any kind of church, right? And that's just going to church. Going to church doesn't mean you're a Christian. What does that actually mean? So it's just like, man, that's a massive amount of people who don't know Christ. So started praying about that, started meeting with pastors in the city, trying to get a better understanding what that would look like, ministry in the city. Started listening to a lot of Tim Keller, and the Lord just really grew a heart in my wife and I for urban ministry. And so we moved into the city.
Which part of the city are you in?
We're in South Philadelphia.
Okay.
So Philadelphia is kind of like a boomerang, and it has this, like, weird thing that like juts out in the middle, and so we're at the like the south tip of it.
Okay.
You know, and so yeah.
Christchurch, South Philly.
Christchurch, South Philly.
Nice.
Christchurch, South Philly is where God
Love
has
it.
us.
And you, maybe we could transition here. You do a outreach ministry to addicts and those very down. I was in Philly a couple weeks ago with Donnie Cho, a friend of mine, and Eric and I, who you know, we're old graffiti writers, so we go looking for graffiti, and
awesome.
so we make our way to Fishtown and then drive on, over the trains are over us, and we make our way into Kensington. And bro, I was just like, there were people laying on the ground. It looked like they were dead. I'm assuming they weren't. There were people, I saw 2 people under this umbrella, and they were crouched up, like this, and they were trying to, I'm assuming it was crack, trying to light crack pipes. But bro, this was like, police were driving by, and this is all out in the open. No one was hiding anything. You could tell someone had just shot up. They were like stumbling out into the street, into traffic, and I'm like, this is a different world right here. Like this street, and then we made a right, and it was the same thing. Like, and that's the people you're reaching out to. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so when the Lord called us into Philly, the call was to really, just go where Christ is yet to be named. It was kind of a general call. But then as we got involved in the city and in our neighborhood, just praying like, Lord, what are the needs that exist here, and how can we be your hands and feet in those needs? And, the opioid epidemic had hit Philly hard at that point. So this is we moved in 2014, started the church in 2015. And that first year, I personally buried 12 people that I knew personally, like building relationships in from
addictions and overdose.
Yeah, all from overdose. And so just praying like, Lord, what do you have us to do here? What can we do? And so just really started praying about that. The numbers in the city were all trending in the bad direction. I mean, historic, overdoses and things like that. So they're like, what would you have us do? So we started really just praying about that. We had started a meeting, which was great. It's like a recovery meeting, and it was great, and people were coming out to that. But I felt like there was just something more. And I think what really kind of the Lord used to really galvanize that there needs to be something more. So there was this guy named Ray, who had been living on the streets, came out to our meetings, came to Christ. I was discipling him, had the privilege of baptizing him. Nice. And the day that I baptized him, that night he relapsed and died.
Man.
And really what the Lord was just showing me is like, man, what we need, the city has tons of detoxes, the city has tons of rehabs, tons of resources to help people get clean. But what they don't offer is really what only the church can offer, which is a gospel-centered community where guys can just grow and get off the streets and be safe. So I was like, we need a house. We need a house where we can take guys. I'm tired of taking guys to meetings and then driving them back to their corner. I would do drugs if I was living on the streets. So we need to get these guys into a safe place where they can experience genuine hospitality, right? Hospitality for us, putting out a plate of cookies, but biblically, it was taking people into your home, right? It was really, so we need to get a home, bring people into this home, so we just pour into them and disciple them, and see what God does for that. So yes, we bought it. We ended up buying a house. We call it the Hope House. Nice. And then from that, we initiated this whole ministry called Transformation to Recovery. So we started as its own 501c3, so we can raise money for people. They might not want to give to the church,
right.
but they'll donate
give
to that.
To that, yeah.
But it's a ministry of the church, and so it's very tied into that. So all the board members have to be ministries of the church.
Nice.
3 of our elders are on the board there.
Love it.
I was the president. I just transitioned to vice president because there's a guy who's just killing it. It's so he's actually the president of the board now. I'm still on there as vice president, and we offer just multiple meetings per week. We have connections all throughout the city, getting them. Getting connected into detoxes, rehabs, but then we now have connections to all these houses.
Nice.
We can get guys in, get them connected, get them plugged into the life of a local church. And so really we're a full comprehensive, navigator that if we can take a guy from, or a woman who's on the street, get them into a detox, get them kind of stabilized, have them come out, get them into housing, where they can just grow in Christ, be discipled, and really learn what it means to be a new creation.
Love that. What have you seen any fruit, as in like? I hate to make people statistics, but what are the stats on people coming through that?
Yeah. So yes, it's tough to do with people's stats, but it is helpful just to measure like how effective is this, right? So the typical statistic that the city uses for like what's a highly successful program is 10%, as far as like someone who comes in and they're still sober 5 years later. 10%. Since we started this ministry back in 2017, we've seen 80%.
Whoa. Bro.
So dramatically different. By the grace of God, actually, we just last year got recognized by the city. We won the Mayor's Award for faith-based recovery ministries. So got recognized by that. They're just seeing what we're doing, and it's not what we're doing. It's really what the Lord's doing.
Yeah.
And it's been really cool opportunity for like the city to be like, hey, so you can like talk to us about like what's different, right? What's different in Jesus. So we're getting tons of opportunities to share the gospel. And they don't fully get it. Like, okay, that seems like they call it a pathway. That's really, we're going to navigate people towards your pathway. I'm like, all right, man. Well, he's not just a pathway. He is the way.
Pathway.
You know, he is the way.
The only
but whatever. You're going to navigate people to us. We'll take them. So yeah,
so
man.
do you have multiple houses now?
Well, no. We have a network of relationships that we have.
Okay.
We are trying to raise money to buy another house.
Nice.
So we still have the one house, which is only 12 beds.
12 beds. That's still a lot. That's
it's a lot, but
How many years of a program is it?
So it's not a defined. We work in like 90-day goals with the guys. So a guy comes in, he has his first 9-day goals, second 90-day goals. We say that generally we're looking to have guys in the house at least 9 months. Okay. Most are there for 18 months. Just because it takes time, man.
Yeah, man.
It takes time,
Yep.
and we really want to see them establish. Our kind of criteria for being able to graduate is, obviously like sobriety, sobriety, and then really making sure that they have some kind of like source of income, but then also connection to the church. So whether it's our church or another church, are they a member of a local church, so they can have that ongoing life and community,
fellowship, accountability,
and support system. They need all that. We all need all that, right? So that's kind of like our criteria that we're working on. And it generally takes a guy about 18 months to get there, honestly. Which is a long time, but like, we're slow cookers.
Yes.
We're slow cookers.
My first ministry was a drug and alcohol ministry.
Oh, wow. Okay.
My background is drugs and alcohol personally, was selling all that stuff. So yeah,
okay.
that was my life,
wow.
bro.
Okay.
And so when I came out of that life and came to Christ,
I
was like, I know this world. I know these type of people. I know how they think. And so, I'm familiar with that, like, we want it, and then we don't the next day. We want it, and then we don't. It's hard. It's a hard ministry. So 80%, man, that's unbelievable. How do you? Here's a question. How do you make a first connection with someone who's strung out and on the street? Like, how do you find people for this, or do they find you?
Yeah, good question. It's a little bit of both. So we find them and they find us. So we find them in the sense that like we just practice the discipline of presence. So just being around, just being out on the streets, meeting tangible needs, giving out food, offering to pray with people.
So like you go to Kensington and you set up shop?
Yeah, there's different spots that we go to. So Kensington, South and Broad, Snyder and Broad, like different spots where the homeless people battling with addictions kind of hang out. Yeah. And so we'll just go there and just spend time there, right? And then really it's like, and then people can come up to us, and the question always goes like, are you done? That's the question that we really ask, because if you say, hey, everyone wants help, like no one likes their lifestyle, but that, are you actually done? Are you done? Yep. Are you still, are you just looking for a handout, or are you looking to be done? Yeah. If you're looking to be done, then we'll take you, we'll get you into, then we'll plug you into the program. So we'll get a lot of people through that. But the first step isn't to come to the house. First step is to go like 30 days detox, get clean, kind of get stable. Then we'll get you into the house. And then we'll also get people from, like, we have relationships with these detox centers. When they're coming out of the house, when they're coming out of detox and they're looking like, hey, I want a faith-based program, maybe they say that. Well, we're usually number one on the city's list for that. And so they'll give us a call, hey, we got this guy, so we got to interview him and stuff. So, this is why we need more houses. Yeah, man. Because we get, on average, 2-3 calls a day. Wow. And we got turned, obviously, most of those people down.
Where do you put them, I guess?
We don't. So we have a wait list. But that's like, it kills me, like, to put someone on a wait list, because, like, where are they going to wait, man?
Right.
Where are they going to wait?
They're going to go back to the streets. They're going to start using
right. And so again, we have networks of houses, we have networks of people that we're working with, but our real prayer is to be able to open a new house within another year. So we're actively raising money for that.
Man,
right
I
now.
love that. So for people watching, how can if they're intrigued, they're moved, how do they help you?
So Transformation to Recovery is the name of the organization. You can Google that. transformationtorecovery.com is our website. You go on there, watch a video of what we do. You can give through that. And so if you want to give a one-time gift, monthly partnership, you can do that. We also do, it's really, really cool. So we didn't get to this side of the story, but long story, I'm also the chaplain for the Phillies. And so one of the things that's come out from that relationship is there's a guy named Larry Anderson who, if you're in Philly, you know LA. So like my hat right now says just LA.
Just
People are
LA.
like, you're from Philly, like why are you supporting Los Angeles? Well, in Philly, if you say the initials LA, no one's thinking Los Angeles. Everyone's thinking this guy, Larry Anderson, because he was the only guy who was both on the 1983 and the 1993 Phillies World Series team. And he's been the color commentator for the Phillies for almost 30 years. So through my ministry with the Phillies, I had connected with him, having the privilege of kind of leading him to, he became a Christian when he was a player, and then his words basically lived a pagan lifestyle for 30 years after. So he kind of like knew Christ, went through some hard times, and he shared all this stuff publicly, so I'm not like airing his stuff. And then he kind of wandered from Lord forever for a long time. Then when I took over as chaplain, we had a mutual friend who connected us, and started sharing the gospel with him, and he ended up kind of re-giving his life to Christ. Had the opportunity to baptize him, he became a member of our church, and he's become a big part of this. So he has this whole apparel brand called Just LA.
Nice.
Where it's like hats, shirts, stuff like that, and he donates 100% of the proceeds.
Man, that's cool.
100% of the proceeds right
To that ministry.
To the ministry.
Man, that's great.
So if you want to go on there and you want to buy some hats and stuff like that, that's another way to. So Just LA Apparel is the kind of
That's sweet.
if you want some swag for your bucks.
Yeah,
But,
that's dope.
yeah.
Well, you mentioned it, so tell us about the Phillies.
Yeah.
How did that happen? How does one become a chaplain for the Philadelphia Phillies?
Yeah.
Second in their,
Yeah,
league.
through a lot of stupidity on their part. So I still don't know what I'm doing there. But no, there's an organization called Baseball Chapel that provides chaplains for every major and minor league team, and it's throughout North America. And so they had an opening in Philadelphia, and so they reached out to me. It was one of the things that like they kind of do it's all relational recruiting. And so because they're looking for a particular type of guy, so they kind of like knew someone who knew me or whatever. So I got a call, hey, is this something you would consider? I thought someone was like punking me. Yeah, I got the call in 2018. I'm 2 years into a church plant. Like, I got church at that point. I don't know. We probably weren't even 100 people yet. I'm like, what is this? And so yeah, man. So just really prayed about it, and it was a big deal for our church because we were so small. I was the only pastor at that point. It's like, man, like to do something else. Is that going to divide my attention? Do I have time for all this? And because it's not just my time. It's like, man, this is the church we're trying to grow here. Like I don't want to go chase something else for the platform of Jeff. If it's going to come to the compromise of these precious saints, right? And but really, we kind of saw it as like, you know what? I think we're actually at a crucial point in our church's development. And I led us in a process of seeking the Lord, but it was the counsel that we got to kind of led us here is that this could be rocket fuel for our leadership development. Because I think, we're church planning. Are you a church planner? Mm-hmm. Okay, so when you're church planning, one of the challenges can be is that you're growing it, and that's great, but it can be very easy for it to be built into you.
Yep, absolutely.
Right? And so we're kind of at that point. It's like, man, is this going to become like Jeff's church, or is this going to become Christ's church?
Yeah, man.
And we're like, man, it's actually going to be a great opportunity for the church to see that's not Jeff's church. It is really Christ's church. And so, so we can support Jeff doing this other thing, and he's still our pastor here. Yep. But we have other guys who can fill the pulpit. We have other guys who can do things and lead up instead. So we don't need Jeff 100%, in that sense. So it was actually a really kind of key, pivotal, culture-setting moment for our church. That
how did they receive
really
that?
It was good, man. I mean, I think what they appreciated is we just kind of walked very transparently in the process. So we let the church know that, hey, we're praying about this. What do you think about that? Yeah. You're under 100 people. It's not hard to like. I literally had conversations with every single church member. Right. What do you think about it? What questions? What concerns you have? Like, and then we had like an advisory team that we formed of people in the church, like a council on that. We had other pastors weigh in. So we kind of like went through a season of like, probably about 2 months, really walking the church. What do we think through this? And I think there was a strong consensus that this is of the Lord, and this is not this isn't just Jeff's ministry. This is really the vision of why we started this church to begin with, because we want to see the name of Christ lifted high in Philadelphia. And so what a great way to do that, by reaching people who have, a lot of influence.
Yes.
A lot of influence in this city. And so I'm just, it's been a cool ministry. So I started doing that in 2018, and yeah, man, just see what God does through that, And so like stuff like this, like the Larry Anderson connection, right? That all came through that. And so it's just seeing how it's something that I do. It's not like I'm bringing members with me down into the clubhouse. That wouldn't be appropriate. I get fired real fast for doing that. So the one is something I do, and yet there's a connection back to our church, and there's a connection really just broadly to God's ministry in the whole city. So,
have you ever had to coach your members like, hey, if one of the Phillies guys shows up, treat him like a normal person.
Yeah.
Don't be like asking for autographs.
Yeah.
You ever had to do that?
I've had to do that. Like, hey,
have you ever had any of the guys come?
Yeah. So the first year I did it, I intentionally invited some of them to come. Just kind of wanted the church to be able to see, like, hey, hear from them directly.
Yeah.
This is what's going on. And I was like, hey, these guys are coming. Please, like, just treat them normal. Whatever. Since then, our church has gotten bigger, and so it's like harder for me to control that. And I just really don't want these guys to come and like for it to become about them.
Yeah.
Because we've gotten bigger, but we're not so big that they could totally like. We're not multiple thousand people, so we can just like hide out in the crowd. So we're big enough that like I can't control what will happen, but small enough that like, they will get recognized. So now they just record videos to like thank the church and stuff like that, and they usually find different churches. But some of their wives will come out to our church because the wives are more incognito.
Yep.
And they'll, and our church is great with that. And the majority of our church would be totally fine if they came. But it is Philly, especially the Phillies being in the World Series last year. It's like the Philadelphia Phillies are a big deal right now. So if they came out, it could be fanfare, which would not serve them well, and honestly would distract our church from where our true worship is.
Yeah.
So, and we don't try to like, I don't want to be like, hey, this guy's coming out to church this Sunday, and like pimp them out to get people in the seats.
Yeah.
Like we really don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So we don't.
I feel you.
Yeah.
No, that's cool. Yeah, I often when we watch these guys at games, we forget they're like in their 20s. They're like young men. Some of them are in their 30s.
Yeah.
But figure like you look back at your 20s and 30s, like how much of life did you understand?
Yeah.
So they need pastors and guidance and all that as well.
Yeah, and I think also like I didn't really fully realize till I was involved in the baseball lifestyle, is that these guys they have and their wives and their families, they have no real opportunity to really meaningfully connect with the local church.
Because what, 160 some games a year?
Some games. I mean, they get 1, maybe 2 days off a month. Imagine that. You get 1 or 2 days off a month, and their day off might be in another part of the country.
Right.
They might be in Seattle. It's not even here in Philadelphia. And also people are like, oh well, they don't start playing till 7. Yeah, but they get to the field usually around noon.
They're practicing, they're stretching.
They're there at noon. They're playing a game at 7. They're done. They're not getting home till 1. Yeah. They're probably not falling asleep till 3 because they're all keyed up from having played in front of thousands of people. And then there's they're waking up at 10 and 11, and they're
right back at it.
Rinse and repeat. So. So the need, it's just such I think my heart's really going out for them and their wives, just that the need to be able to come into that space and kind of really in some ways bring the church to them and create community within the team, because they can't really engage during the season in community of the church. Yeah,
that would be a hard lifestyle. Like, the money's good, you're doing what you love. It's such an exclusive thing to be in the MLB, but man, is that a rough lifestyle for however many years you play pro. It's a lot. Yeah. All right, brother, I think we're done. Anything else you would like to say? Anything to our watchers here to conclude? Whatever you'd like to say.
Yeah, man, just love what we're doing here in Acts 29. Love building with you guys. You guys inspire me all the time. And I'm just grateful to be part of this with you. And let's keep going hard for Christ.
Amen. Thanks, bro.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Appreciate it.